welcome to another episode of Historia.
Yes, welcome.
I'm Jamie.
I'm Kylie.
And today...
we are here. Once
Good
again.
Here we are, Sunday evening, because we like to get freaky on the weekend.
It does feel weird to record on a Sunday. This is our first time doing that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we're still drinking.
We're drinking wine.
Can't stop us.
We can't stop, won't stop. So, Ruby's here, our co-host.
She's sassy.
Ruby is Jamie's cat.
Oh, yes. She's very orange and fluffy.
Go check the Instagram out for a picture.
Yes.
I'm going to post it soon.
Nice. I'm excited.
Yeah. So,
how you been?
What's up?
Been good?
Yeah, I've been pretty good. Getting back into the swing of school and all that fun stuff.
Gross.
So, yeah, my body hurt really bad on Friday. I was like, I'm just tired. I want to sleep.
I've been seeing a lot more college kids around town.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, oh, college just started too.
Yeah.
It feels weird because it's been a year since we've been out.
Yeah, it is really weird. We're not like the most recent graduating class anymore.
No.
We're so old.
Yeah. Yes, we are.
Yeah.
It's gross.
Jamie's birthday is coming up.
Hey. Sometimes a Labor Day, baby.
I think this episode will come out on your birthday. Or the day after. Yeah, the day after.
Oh my gosh.
So technically, it's already your birthday. Happy birthday!
Yay! Exciting!
Stay tuned, though, because we will be doing something for her birthday. On the actual day.
Yay.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to involve alcohol.
Yes.
And fun time, so be ready.
Are you surprised that it involves alcohol?
Just say, I don't drink during the week, so this is my fun time. I socially drink.
Right, same. I don't just, drink every night.
I don't have a problem.
Yeah, everything's fine, guys. Don't worry about us. Literally. We're fine. Christ. Everything's okay, I promise. Oh, there's her food.
I thought we beat it today.
I know. Right at the beginning, too. Ruby has to eat. Oh, it's still coming out.
She's just anticipating.
She ran to her food so fast.
Yeah. It's sometimes in the morning. I think it was yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday. She was just all cuddly, just cuddling me on the bed. And then as soon as her feeder went off, she bolted. And I was it kind of knocked the wind out of me because she was laying on my chest. She was just whoop. And I was like, oh my God.
She's like, bye.
Yeah, she runs to it so quick. She's very glutton.
Yeah.
We should do one on the 7 deadly sins, and she would be one of them.
Ruby and herself.
She will eat anything you give her, which is really dangerous because she loves my food. She loves to sniff it, and I'm like, I always forget that she actually will eat it.
Yeah. She's eating very quickly right now.
Yeah, and that's a problem because then she gorges herself and then she gets sick.
Slow
down.
Classic Ruby.
Missy. Alrighty.
How are you doing, by the way?
I'm doing great. I just got a new car.
Oh, yeah.
I got to ride in it tonight.
So bougie.
Yeah, I got the Subaru Forester.
2021?
Yeah.
2021.
Mm-hmm. Ice silver.
It's so nice. It has a sunroof.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's my first new car. Because the first one, my parents got me a 2003 Grand Am, Pontiac Grand Am.
Oh, yeah.
Old red. Because
yeah.
we both had red cars in high school, and we were just like, oh my God.
You're like, wow, look. Yep.
And then my second car, I won at Sky Sox. It was
which is a baseball game.
It was a baseball team. I think they're out of Milwaukee now.
Yeah. Now we have a different team in our area.
They're marshmallows. That's what they are. They're marshmallows.
No, they aren't. That's what
the vibes.
Oh.
They're flaming marshmallows.
Really?
Yeah.
What the heck?
I know, it's so
What's happening right now?
Well, they were trying to make it a Rocky Mountain oyster. And that they're like, we can't do that.
Yikes.
So they did marshmallows. But yeah, I won my second car at that. So first car payment
Which, like, I didn't even think those were real when they said, like, we'll get you a free car. Like, I never knew people actually won.
It was a used car raffle that they were doing, but that's still pretty cool. Like, she got me through Izzy. I named her Izzy because she was at Isuzu Rodeo.
Yeah.
And she had 4-wheel drive, and it was such an upgrade from my Pontiac because that Pontiac slipped and slid everywhere, and Izzy got me through, like, the worst ice storm that we had here. So that's all I really wanted was 4-wheel drive. But this one has all-wheel drive.
Oh, nice.
Which is nice. And then it has, like, X mode.
I was going to ask about that. Cool.
For snow.
I've had 2 red cars that are almost the same.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to getting a new car in, like, hopefully a couple years.
How does your car do during the snow?
It's not the best, but I feel like I don't really need to be out on the snow when it's super bad because they usually cancel school anyway.
Oh, yeah. You're lucky.
So I haven't really had an instance where, like, I remember last year we had a 2-hour delay and driving to school that day was really bad.
Yeah.
But that was really the only time I had, and I was fine. I just had to drive really slow. But I've gotten stuck uphill a couple times, too.
Yeah, my mom does that a lot. Like, when she can't make it up the hill when it's, like, really bad when she's coming home from her work. So she has to take, like, alternate routes. And I'm like, why did you get that car? She was like, that's the only car your dad can fit in. Because my dad is 6'4".
Oh, yeah.
So he can't fit in a lot of things.
He's very tall.
Yeah, but even, like, the car that they have is a Malibu.
Yeah.
I'm like, how the hell does he fit in that? But I sold him my car.
There we go.
I mean, they're finally going to get rid of the space van. It's an old Pontiac van, but, like,
they're getting rid of it?
Finally. That thing, I don't know how it's still running.
It's been going for years.
Yeah, because I think it was made in 91. And it was the Pontiac van. I don't know what the model actually is of it. But it looks like a spaceship from the front. But the trunk doesn't work.
It does look like a spaceship. That's funny.
It does. That's what Sean called it, my brother-in-law.
Oh.
I just thought it was we thought it was the funniest thing, so now it's a space van.
I love that.
And then I gave him my Pontiac. That car, ooh, it's been through a lot. In high school, I knocked off the mirror of it.
I've also done that on my first car I did when I was learning how to drive. I hit a stop sign and the mirror fell off.
How?
It was like it wasn't just a stop sign. It was one of them that was, like, built into a cement, like, wall. Like, it was like a cement wall that had a stop sign at the top.
Oh.
And my dad was on the phone while he was teaching me how to drive.
Oh, God, that's the first mistake.
I was a little bit too close to the outside, and it just went, and, like, came off.
Oh, my God.
And it was just hanging there. And that car, I had, like, tape on it, on that mirror. Oh, but...
God, that was really... Wasn't that your grandma's car?
It was, like, my grandma's, and then my parents', and then mine.
Dang.
It was a Dodge Stratus. Now I have a Kia. Which I do like my Kia, but it's old, and it's 2008, and I want something a little bit newer, but I'm waiting until it, like, falls apart.
Do it.
Or at least until I know I can afford a new car, so... Yeah.
I know. I was, like, really, like, do I want to do this? And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it.
There you go. You did it.
I did it.
Yeah, I need a car that's good in snow, but...
Especially here, because it's, like, hit or miss. Like, some years will be really bad.
Yeah.
I feel like this year will be bad, because we haven't gotten a lot of hail, which is shocking.
Yeah, that's true.
To hear. Boy. Yeah, because normally, like, every summer we have so much hail.
Yeah, we didn't have a crazy storm that knocked out everyone's windows.
Knock on wood.
Not yet, but hopefully...
It can still happen. Oh, that scared Ruby.
Yeah, she's like, why are you knocking? Why are you knocking on something?
She looks very large right now.
Yeah, I've been wedding planning like crazy. Picked a venue out, and...
Looks really pretty.
I was trying to we were going to make our guest list, but then we got distracted. So...
That's a lot of people.
I know, I don't even, like, know how to think of everyone. Like...
That's when you get the parents involved, because they will think of everybody.
Yeah, that's why I was going to do it at my parents' house, but... I don't want to invite, like, everyone.
Oh, God, no. If they live out of state.
Yeah.
Unless it's, like, his family.
Yeah. I'm not going to invite people that I barely know, like, on my family. I'm only gonna invite people that, like, have been present in my life.
Yeah.
Not, like, my mom's, like, second cousins. Like, no. I don't know them, you know?
I don't know them.
I'm not gonna invite them. I don't know them. Anyway.
Exactly. Of course, the parents will be like, well, they're family. No. It's like, I
can't afford it, Mom.
Can't, right?
The alcohol in itself is going to be so expensive.
You just pull that card. Be like, we can afford this. This is how we're going to do it.
Yeah, exactly. But it's going to be good. Mm-hmm. I have 11 months to prepare.
And the good thing is that you guys live together.
Yeah.
So if you buy a bunch of stuff, you don't have to get that. You just ask for money. That's the smart thing.
What we're doing is we're going to ask for money for the honeymoon, yeah.
Exactly.
Our honeymoon fund.
Because honeymoons are expensive. I wouldn't know, but, you know, trips are expensive.
I wouldn't know. Yeah. So, but anyway, that's life right now.
Yeah.
Super exciting.
So what are you covering today?
Today we'll be talking about the 1906 San Francisco earthquake.
Ooh.
Down, 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 down.
Sadness.
And rest in peace to all the Californian areas that are now on fire right now.
Oh, yeah, that looks really bad.
It does. So this kind of felt like I felt sad that I was doing this, but at the same time, just think about California and all the other states that are on fire right now, guys.
Oh, yeah. And then you're covering an earthquake, and we just had that one in Haiti.
Yeah.
That was bad. They can't catch a break.
Right, and this one's pretty intense and very sciencey. I will warn you guys, as I was researching, whenever I saw like a bunch of science information, I just went, what? And then I just kept reading. So I'm sure I missed very vital points to this. But if you're more curious about like the science part of things, just go search it, because that's not really my forte.
I'm sure there's plenty of information and research that you can find through like local libraries, archives, books.
Right. So I tried to stay mostly towards the facts. Like there is some science that I'll talk about, but
and that's why we're here. We're here to inform you of what we found and encourage you to look deeper.
Right. Again, we're not going to tell you guys everything because we don't know everything, and that's okay.
They would be very long episodes, or we would have to make like 5-parters depending on what we're talking about, which I'm sure eventually we will get to that. But some information is very hard to get a hold of.
Right.
And research. Like this topic that I will be covering for next week, I could have gone to like the archives, but everything's just been chaotic.
Yeah, makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
My family already thinks that our episodes are too long, so...
Really?
I think they're just using it as an excuse.
I think so.
They won't listen to it.
The thing is that with history podcasts, they are going to be a little bit longer just because history is not short.
Right, and we like to talk, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So... I think they just don't want to listen to my podcast, so I see how it is.
My mom doesn't understand podcasts.
My mom doesn't either. She's like, how do I find it again?
Well, my mom is just like, I don't understand. You guys are just talking. And I'm like...
podcast.
Again, she doesn't understand. I'm like, I guess I have to tell her, like, it's like a radio show.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. It's fancier. I have a radio show, guys.
We just don't play music.
We could. Do.
Hotel lobby music.
Oh, goodness gracious. But anyway, so if you want more sciencey information, do your research.
Do it.
On your own time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here we go.
Let's get started.
So, okay, guys, I'm talking about the 1906 San Francisco earthquake. When I searched San Francisco earthquake, there were a lot of them, but this one...
Oh, God.
This one stands out because it's very intense. So, you'll find out more very soon. This happened at 5:12 a.m. on April 18th, 1906.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very long time ago.
Yeah.
And this was one of the most significant earthquakes of all time. Over the years, they've actually gained more scientific knowledge, and it used to just be popular and well known because of how big it was.
Yeah.
But now, they really started to notice after researching that it really helped advance in science and learning more about earthquakes. So that's what really stands out about this earthquake is it caused them to start learning more about earthquakes and what really goes into them. And so this was kind of the start of a revolution. My mouth is very dry. Hold on. Water break.
I like how you go for the water instead of the wine.
Well, because I'm not actually thirsty.
You're saying wine doesn't satisfy your thirst needs?
I'm upset though because this water is my my grandma's water and it's not good.
Dude, you could have just gotten mine.
I know, but I forgot. It's fine. I'll chug it.
Your grandma's water is different?
Yes. Her house has really bad water. And this is even filtered.
Really?
Like, she has a water filter and it's still nasty.
Ew, where do they get their water from?
I don't know. They're out of state lines, or out of city lines.
I don't know anywhere in...
Cimarron Hills.
They don't live that far, do they?
They're technically out of city lines.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's weird.
Yep. But it's okay. I chased it down with some wine. We're good.
Chasing your water with wine.
Oh, okay. Jesus. I'm sorry. We're going to make it through this. Okay. So, I'm sorry, guys. All right. So this earthquake was 296 miles north of the San Andreas Fault. So kind of on the northern side. And so it went on for 477 kilometers or 296 miles, however you think about it. But again, it's on that northern part of the fault. And it went all the way from the northwest of San Juan Bautista to the triple junction at Cape Mendocino. So it was very long and it hit a few different states, which I'll talk about.
Wow.
Yeah. Scientists were very amazed by the way that the displacement from the earthquake went horizontally. Mm-hmm. And so they also saw great rupture length. So it was also very deep. But the weirdest part was that instead of it being like a straight line through the fault, it was very like horizontal.
Huh.
And so that is what caused them to question that and look more into that.
Yeah. That's
right.
Sciencey.
It's very, see what I'm talking about? And I know there's other words for that, but like I kind of read through them and I went horizontal. I know what that means. Okay, so it all started at 5:12 a.m.
That's early.
I know. There was a foreshock with a lot of force throughout the whole San Francisco Bay Area. So the entire area was affected. Right after the initial shock at 5:12 a.m., the big earthquake was 20 seconds later.
Oh, God.
So they felt the shock, and then they were like, what's happening? And then the earthquake immediately started. And the biggest area that it did affect was San Francisco. So that's why they call it the San Francisco earthquake. But the shocks were super violent from the beginning, and it only lasted 45 to 60 seconds. So it wasn't that long at all, but that's how intense it was.
Dang, so that earthquake only lasted less than a minute.
Yes. Yeah, and it destroyed many buildings and killed people.
Do they know what the magnitude was?
Yeah, I'll get there.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was very quick, but the shocks were just so intense. Mm-hmm. You could feel it also in the southern area of Oregon, and you could even feel it south of LA and parts of Nevada. So it was very deep into that fault line. And again, covering that 200 miles.
Yeah.
It was pretty big. So the intensity scale for earthquakes, I'm just going to go over like what each number means. Mm-hmm. And then I'll talk about what number it is. So the MMI.
Ooh.
That's the name for it. So modified Mercalli intensity. Mercalli? I don't know. Okay, anyway. So number 1 would be like an earthquake that you don't feel. So it's like, it might be like a little shock, but like you wouldn't feel it.
Yeah.
Number 2 is weak. Number 3 is weak. 4 is like light, so you would feel it, but nothing would get destroyed.
Yeah.
5 is moderate, so you might have a couple things destroyed. You might have things falling in your house. Mm-hmm. 6 is strong, so that's where buildings would actually start to kind of crumble. 7 is very strong. 8 is severe. 9 is violent, and 10 is extreme.
Jeez.
This earthquake was in between an 8 and a 9.
Oh my
so
God.
severe and violent.
Yeah.
And that's because the buildings actually shifted off the foundations.
Oh my God.
So they actually like lifted themselves up the foundations and then collapsed. There was collapsing buildings everywhere. Chimneys were falling off houses. There were monuments falling down. There were walls crumbling into pieces. So that's what made it violent as well as severe. And I think it would have been extreme if it was a longer earthquake, but because it happened so fast. It was 80 kilometers inland from the fault trace, so it actually went 80 kilometers deep. So very deep, yeah. And it's remembered most because there was also a fire that was started from the earthquake in San Francisco.
That's right.
Yes, because remember it was a fire when we were talking about it. We didn't surprise each other this week. We knew what we were talking about, but it's okay. So there was actually a fire that was started from one of the shocks, and that damage from the fire was also super severe. So a lot of these casualties numbers and the severity of it does come from that fire as well.
Yeah.
But the shaking damage in itself was also severe. Like without the fire, it still caused a lot of damage. There were 700 deaths caused by both the earthquake and the fire. Most died in San Francisco, and then there were 189 deaths reported elsewhere. So
that's a lot.
Yeah. Now the ground surface was broken, and the offset was 20 feet in the ground. There were some areas that were 24 to 28 feet as well. But when the areas that went all the way 20 feet deep into the ground, those took about 4 to 5 seconds to move the ground. So that's how quick it takes to get that deep, which is crazy. And that makes it about 3 miles an hour. So that's how fast that it like spreads and breaks the ground. So even after the initial shock and the initial earthquake, because that ground was moving, it was pushing things. So hours later, buildings were falling down, which is crazy to think about. And then the rupture was at a speed of 5,800 miles per hour.
Oh my God.
So again, it was less than a minute, but it went fast.
Yeah.
So just to be more specific into the deaths, we had 498 in San Francisco. We had 64 in Santa Rosa, and then we had 102 in and near San Jose. So those were the 3 main areas in California. And after extensive research, they actually feel like there could have been over 3,000 deaths caused by the catastrophe.
Probably,
altogether. Yeah.
They probably didn't know how to properly I guess document how many.
Right.
Some probably didn't have family, so.
Yeah, exactly. So, and the population of San Francisco at the time was 400,000. So if we think 3,000 of them died, like.
That's a lot of people still for 1906.
Right. Yeah. So that's what makes it so severe. Another reason why. And then people were homeless because of this, obviously, because their houses were destroyed. So we had 225,000 people that ended up being homeless.
Jeez.
That's how many people lost their homes out of, again, 400,000. So the majority lost their homes.
Then in the summer or winter could probably be rough, so some people probably lost more.
Yeah. There were 28,000 buildings destroyed.
Jeez.
And the fire lasted 3 days. So a lot of the houses were destroyed because of the fire.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. And then I actually have statistics on like the type of buildings that were destroyed, which is really interesting. But the wood buildings there were 24,671. So most of them were wood.
Yeah.
And then brick buildings were 3,168.
Brick, really?
Yeah.
That's shocking.
I know.
I thought they built brick houses to withstand that.
I get it. Shocking. That's funny. So yeah, altogether there were 28,188 buildings. Damn. Yeah, I know. The brick shocked me too.
Because I guess whatever foundation that they put before the brick probably caused it, or maybe the heat kind of put. Do you want more?
Sure. Wine break. And the property damage was 400 million.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Is that their time?
Yep.
That's how much that would probably be like.
And well, okay, so most of it was from the fire. 80,000 of it, or 80 million was from the earthquake itself. and then the rest was from the fire, which is still a lot.
That is a lot, and
Yeah.
you have to think 400 million for 1906, that currency.
Mm-hmm.
How much it's changed since then?
Yeah.
So it was probably almost $1 billion at this point.
It's crazy. And they said they actually, with the studying of the fault lines and the occurrences per year of earthquakes, they estimate that this type of earthquake will occur every 200 years-ish. Like almost every 200 years.
You might be dead by then.
Yeah. And what they're saying is if it happened today, like just with the population of California,
that would be tremendous.
Yes, thousands and thousands of lives would be gone, and a lot more money would be affected.
I can see why people are trying to leave California now.
Right, but the population's still rising.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in San Francisco.
Really?
Yeah.
Why there?
People are still wanting to live there.
There's no backyards.
I don't know. And if it happened today, like if all of these events happened and how deep it was and how quickly it moved, it would probably be the worst natural disaster in nation's history.
Jeez.
So they're basically taking what they learned from this earthquake and trying to find ways to not prevent it from happening, but like know how to react to it and how to handle it. So they've been actually having those plans set for a while in San Francisco.
Are they like putting down, I wonder if they're putting down like a certain foundation with like all the new buildings to like...
I think I talk about that a little bit. Because I remember researching that.
Yeah,
because
they would have to completely rebuild.
Yeah.
And then even now they're probably destroying those buildings that were rebuilt.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're old as shit. Like...
Right. And they're worried because there's also some stress on the San Andreas fault system that's actually starting to build up again. In that area. Yeah. And it's going to keep occurring because there was an earthquake before 1906. And then in 1979 and 1984, there were 3 earthquakes. So between those years. And they were all level 6. So they were pretty intense.
Yeah.
And then, so that was 1979 to 1984. Just three level 6 earthquakes in that span of 5 years. And then in 1989... there was the Loma Prieta earthquake. That was a 6.9.
Jeez.
And that was only 5 years later. So they're starting to see this, this theme. But because they saw that it went from 1906 to 1979, like that was the next big earthquake, they're thinking it's weird because 70 years before 1906, they had shocks of 6 and 7 that were occurring every 10 to 15 years.
And they probably weren't located there within that 200 years
right.
before.
Yeah.
So there could have very well have been another 9.1, but I think the only people who would have been there are any indigenous.
Right. And so it took them a while to figure out that actually happened.
Yeah. But
it was happening every, like before the 1906 earthquake, it was happening every like 10 to 15 years right on that fault line.
Yeah.
Scientists believe that a similar period of quakes is under... I like how they call them quakes. It's kind of fun. I feel so scientific. They think that it's underway. So they think that we are kind of getting to that point again.
Yeah.
Where we're going to have those big earthquakes every, 10 years. But, again, they are taking better precaution. So, before 1906, the earthquake research in the U.S. was not as advanced as other countries. So other countries took it more seriously or just had plans in mind because they experienced those bigger earthquakes.
Especially Greece and Italy.
Right. Yeah. And so it took the U.S. a while to be okay, we should probably set our plans for these tragedies and know how to react to them. So the first seismograph was in 1887.
Dang.
And think about they had a level, 6.9 earthquake in 1835.
They probably thought it was God.
Right. They didn't know what it was. They're like, oh, the earth just moved? It's fine. Look at these guys. Yeah. And so they didn't have the seismograph until 1887, so they didn't really have that information about it.
Yeah.
And when the earthquake happened, scientists went crazy because they used it as a way to study, because they saw how quickly it happened and how fast it moved and how deep it went. So they've been researching it ever since, and really taking a lot of that knowledge from this earthquake to help better their technology. Yeah. They even discovered like I mentioned earlier with the horizontal lines,
Mm-hmm.
they discovered that you could actually have different angles in the ground. So there's a lot of displacements at the largest at the fault lines that were straight, and then they would curve at the end. So before that, they thought that all the fault lines would just be straight.
Yeah.
But then they noticed that with this earthquake in particular, because it moved so quickly, there were curved lines in it as well.
Well, you would think it would, because not everything is going to be a straight line.
Yeah.
Especially earthquake. It's very, like,
Right.
It's chaotic.
But that was new to them. They were like,
Yeah.
wow, we haven't seen this before.
No.
So they realized just how intense it could be.
Mm-hmm.
And they also mentioned the elastic rebound theory, which is kind of like stored elastic stress, and this is the best way that they can explain what's happening in that fault line. But it's like a rubber band when you're stretching it out, and there's so much pressure that it eventually snaps.
Yeah.
And so the elastic energy is released. And so that's like kind of a fun way to describe what's going on in the ground, but
It's still crazy to me to think of just issues don't necessarily cause on top of the earth that we see.
Yeah.
Like hurricanes or everything is based from the soil, from the ground that we see.
right.
And it's crazy. Like, that kind of stuff freaks me out. Like, I gotta admit, like, earthquakes, I can't imagine, like, when James was over in Afghanistan, there was an earthquake before he left. And he said, this was recently, too, and it was, like, I think it was, like, a 4 or 5 on the scale. And he was like, it was weird because it woke him up. He was sleeping. And he just saw, and everything in his room was metal. And so everything was, like, shaking and whatnot. And I was like, what did it feel like? He was like, annoying.
Annoying.
He was just like, I'm just trying to sleep, and a freaking earthquake that kept going. It went on for a few minutes. And I can't imagine that. That would be freaky
So
to me.
crazy.
Because we don't get them here.
Right. Yeah, so I've never experienced them, and I can't imagine ever experiencing them in Colorado, but
No, the crazy thing here that we get is probably just the hailstorms. Like, we get, like, some tornado warnings, but nothing to the extreme.
I don't think we've ever had a bad experience, like a bad tornado experience in this area.
No.
I don't think it's always like close by, but more in like the field areas because we're so close to the mountains.
Probably out by Peyton.
Yeah. We're too high in elevation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the last thing I wanted to talk about was like what we were asking of the ground, like the foundation.
Yeah.
And the best way to build. They realized that from that earthquake that the artificially filled ground would cause the greatest amount of damage. And then the least amount of damage were the buildings that were built on rock. So that's what they've been using as foundations ever since.
Yeah.
Because they know that they're more sturdy through earthquakes. So, and then that's the information I have, but I also have this like, let's see, what do I want to call it? Not a story, but like someone wrote about their memories of the earthquake.
I love that.
So it's kind of long, but I haven't been talking that long, so it's okay. And I feel like sometimes the best way to understand a situation is to hear from the account of somebody else.
Especially someone who is not like a scientist or like someone who knows the science behind it.
Right.
It's just someone's memory of just like how they felt in that moment. Those are the most captivating, I feel like.
Right. So this is, I'm just going to read it because why not? This is from the San Francisco Museum website, actually. And they actually have a whole entire page about, this is where I got my information because it was all right there. Yeah. But there's a whole page on the earthquake. So if you guys are looking for more information, they have like really cool pictures of like what the fault line looks like, which obviously I couldn't really explain because they're pictures. So go look at that. And then they also have pictures of the actual event. Mm-hmm. So there's also just a lot of, again, scientific information on it. It's pretty cool. But then they have a list of like 15 different accounts of eyewitnesses. So, again, it's on the San Francisco City website. So this is Memories of the San Francisco Earthquake and Fire by DeWitt. Is that a DeWitt? DeWitt C. Baldwin. And this was September 19th, 1988. So it's him reflecting on it when he's older. And
Holy
he was a
shit,
kid at the
he
time.
has to be super old.
Right. So I'm going to read it, and my throat is very dry, so just ignore it. Okay, here we go. Shortly after 5 in the morning... Oh, wait, it says shortly after 5 the morning. Okay. They know grammar. They're doing great so far. Shortly after 5 in the morning of April 18th, 1906, I woke up to dress quickly and have an hour's practice on the piano. I was 8 years old then, and Mother insisted that I practice every day after school. I did not want to give up my hours in the afternoon for that, so we agreed that instead of practicing the piano after school, I would practice in the morning before breakfast.
That's so early.
I know, 5 a.m.? Are you joking?
Sounds terrible.
Imagine being in that house and just hearing, like, the keys starting.
God.
You're like, I'm trying to sleep.
And start banging on the wall.
That way I could spend the afternoon playing ball with the boys. Ball is life.
Ball is life.
Okay. At about 5:15, I had gotten as far as sitting up with my feet over the side of the bed when totally unexpectedly the house began to shake violently. I heard dishes break from different parts of the house. Furnitures moved at the violence of the shock. I ran across the hall to our parlor, from which I had heard crockery and glassware falling off a shelf or glass cabinet. There I saw the upright piano where I was about to practice on. Dang, the piano freaking flipped over.
Dang.
It shifted about 1.5 feet away from the wall. The shake of the earthquake seemed to be from side to side of our house. Wow. And it happened again so fast. Jeez.
Yeah.
Then I quickly dashed down the hall to see the effects of the earthquake. I especially wanted to talk to my parents. My elder sister Helen was awakened by the earthquake, but she was still in her room. When I saw her, I asked where our parents and my baby sister were. She hurriedly informed me that Mother grabbed Virginia and they ran downstairs for safety under the front door. Virginia was only 6 months old then, and the Baldwins lived on the 3rd floor of a flat, or what is now referred to as an apartment. 2 other families lived downstairs and with the Baldwins in the same building. I was quite excited, so I raced up to the front windows to look out. There I noticed some people running up and down our street, while others were curiously peering out their windows. We all hurried back to our rooms to get dressed. That must have been a school day, or I would not have taken time to wake up early to practice my piano lessons. So he's trying to remember what day it was. Mother and Father hastily got breakfast ready. Around 7:45, we were at our table eating and talking over immediate plans when suddenly a second fairly strong earthquake shook the house again. Very soon after the second tremors, sirens began to wail at different directions of the city. This indicated to us that local fires had started. After breakfast, Father left for work. He realized that he was needed downtown in his office, which was very near the U.S. Mint building. Oh. At that time, my father, Clinton D. Baldwin, was the purchasing agent for the United States Railroads of San Francisco. There seemed to be a strike in the company, and he was then responsible for the food, lodging, and other needs of over 100 strike breakers. Mother and Helen opted to remain at home. They spent the morning listening to the verbal reports of neighbors and other people on the streets, sharing their information about ongoing fires, which were practically every part of the city. Reportedly, there had been 53 different fires in progress simultaneously.
Oh my God.
Jeez!
That's so many.
Oh my God. As soon as breakfast was over, I requested Mother's permission to go outside. I like the way he talks. It's so cute. Mother's permission to go outside our back wooden stairs. School had already been called off at that time. I would hope so.
Right?
They're like, you can still come. Everything's on fire, but it's okay. I was curious to see the nearest fire at the corner of 72nd and Mission Street. Our house was located at 931 Dolores Street in the block between the 22nd and 23rd Streets. As I ran across Valencia Street, going to the Mission Street, I noticed on my left down Valencia Street a small old 3-story hotel. Evidently, it had been built over a subterranean fault line. The first story had partly sank in the earth, while the second and third had fallen out into the street. That was the first structural destruction I had witnessed. That's
Dang.
amazing. There's that picture.
Oh, that looks chaotic.
Yeah. Wow.
Just buildings.
The hotel's just literally in the street.
Yeah.
And everyone's freaking out. I had hardly gone to Mission Street when I came across a large crowd watching a huge department store ablaze. I observed how the firemen desperately attempted to bring the fire under control. After surveying some time and listening to tales from different folks who were there to see the fire, I turned back home and on the way collected information about other fires from distant places in the city. These 82 years later, oh God, I find it difficult to describe my own personal feelings about the earthquake that day. As an 8-year-old boy, I was not frightened then by the actual earthquake. The tremor and the noise of the breakage did not disturb me. That for me was just a more destructive one than I had known. The rest of the family were quite excited and nervous, but I was not afraid. I guess I felt secure in the knowledge that the house and the family would be all right. Even so, I sensed the seriousness of the situation, and I saw the severity on it for many people. My attitude was one of excitement, curiosity, and a great desire to see and hear all I could. So he's just like, what's going on? 82 years later.
Jeez.
So he's 90 writing this. My God.
Oh my God.
Okay, not until mid-afternoon did the first grim experience of the earthquake and the subsequent fires struck me. As I went out on our street, Dolores Street, the sidewalk began to fill up with people from all parts of the city. They were carrying a load of possessions they considered important to them. There were sights that were a bit laughable to me as a boy. It seemed that some had left their homes quite hurriedly, that they had not selected carefully the things to carry with them, or that some had not expected to return and they were carrying their whole possessions with them. That is kind of funny to see, like, the ones who are like, we gotta take everything, and the ones that are like, whatever, let's just go.
Their bathrobe.
Yeah. Folks were carrying bundles, boxes, trunks, and even a bird cage.
Wow.
I saw mothers carrying their babies and little children hanging onto their parents' hands. Once in a while, a boy's play wagon on which were clothes and food supplies, which would help temporarily would pass by. These lines of people overflowed the sidewalks and were going towards the mountains beyond the mission area of the city. As the day went on, I saw many things that entertained me. My parents forbade me to go down near the ferry building or any distant part of the city. They thought it far too dangerous for any boy to be wandering about, but still, I was out on the street most of the time. Father was too busy downtown, and Mother's hands were full with the baby to take care of, so I managed to be where the action was. With boys my own age, I wandered as far as I dared to explore some destruction sites and get a view of local fires. Boy, he's just running, chasing the fires. In some places, there were gaps on the ground. Some were about 1 foot to 5 feet wide, narrowing toward the inner earth.
Oh my God.
Imagine just like looking down and being like, whoa.
Yeah.
They seemed anywhere from 2 feet to over 25 feet deep, just like a crevice. Sometimes when I dared to peer down the fissure, I would see fallen things inside. That would also be weird.
Yeah.
At times, I couldn't see anything because the crack was frightfully deep and dark. All through the night of the first day, great numbers of people were constantly passing by our house, evacuating towards the mission area. On the second day, U.S. soldiers were dispatched to every part of the city to keep peace and order, to prevent looting, and to implement emergency regulations set by the mayor and the city council. On our street alone, 2 soldiers were assigned, and they had our orders drawn up. Among them were stop looting, fire at robbers or looters. By the second night, another order was added. No lighted candles or matches in a building. Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Yeah.
If one wanted a light, one had to go outside on the streets. These rules were difficult to follow, especially for families with babies or little children. Sometime during that evening, Mother felt that she had to have the same warm milk for my baby sister, Virginia, who was just 6 months old. Cautiously, Mother struck a match to light a sterno. Soon enough, an officer knocked at her door and ordered her to, "Madam, put out the light. And if you do that again, I have to shoot you." Okay.
What?
It's very intense. She protested only to be told that such was the order. The morning of the third day came, and many fires were still in progress. Many structures in our neighborhood were destroyed and leveled to the ground such that one could stand at the feet of the market street and look as far as the eye could see to the east and to the west. By this time, fires were still raging to the east of Market Street and toward the mission area, likewise in several areas reaching toward the Golden Gate Park. Later that day, as the fires continued, we were ordered to evacuate our homes and find shelter on the hills. At this point, the gravity of the situation began to dawn on me. This is getting serious, I said to myself. The fire had threatened the very place we live. The whole situation set me to thinking of the tragedy or the incompleteness of the power of man relative to the power of nature. Our family was very fortunate to be provided with a small market wagon. My father, being an officer of the United Railroads, was able to get us what we called a spring wagon to take us and all important possessions on our journey. Hastily, Mother packed a small trunk with all the baby's needs that we could bring. There's a lot of typos in this, by the way, guys. It says we could brings, so that gives you an example. A few blankets and some provisions. Soon, all of us were on the wagon, going by Valencia Street, looking as far as I could see down the road. I watched the flames bursting on both sides, meeting each other on the street. The sight and the knowledge that soon the flames would reach our house before morning really gave me serious thoughts about the uncertainty of life. My heart developed sober seriousness as to what the situation would mean to us and what it had meant to others. As a boy of 8, I had been around the city many times. I was acquainted with the city, and I loved it. San Francisco was really a part of me, and I had to say goodbye to it. Like, that surprised me and made me think of what was ahead of us. I doubt if Mother herself slept a wink that night. She held my baby sister close to her and found comfort in prayers. That is really sad to be like, my whole childhood is destroyed, probably.
Yeah.
Two lasting impressions were embedded in my mind the third day. As I look beyond Mission Street from the back stairs of our 3-story building, I saw a powerful blaze consuming everything before it. I began to think of the destructive power of fire and realized that fire was more destructive of man and his environment than any cause I had known then. Later that day, when we ordered to leave our houses to find places of refuge somewhere on the hills so the authorities could better handle the spreading menace, I began to realize as never before the importance of food, shelter, and protection. Sobering thoughts. By daybreak of the 4th day, folks stirred and started the day with the problem of finding the water for their needs. In the middle of the day, a man arrived on horseback to communicate to us the good news from one of the centers of command in the city. We learned that the night before, a decision was reached to dynamite every house on the block ahead of the fire to make it difficult for the flames to spread across the street. That's interesting. Mm-hmm. Consequently, the fire was controlled at the block of the 20th Street, and those who lived beyond that block were allowed to go back to their homes. I'm almost done here. Even so, no match or fire could be lighted in the house until full inspection of its gas pipes and electrical wiring was completed. This meant that those who wanted to cook had to take their cooking equipment out on the streets. That's weird. What a sight on Dolores Street. All the way down the middle of the street, cooking stoves and supplies were lined one after the other.
Oh my gosh.
That's hilarious. There's just stoves outside.
They're like, we're having a barbecue today.
Yeah, with our ovens. For the thousands of people who had escaped the fire and gone on foot to our part of the city, the military made available provisions, tents, blankets, medicines, and food. Father was asked to immediately serve as a member of the city committees, and he requisitioned the materials and supplies to provide for the people. Part of his other responsibilities was to order and secure materials for the reconstruction of the cable cars, the electric trolleys, and other means of transportation for the city. As a member of the First Methodist Church of San Francisco, which was completely burned down, Father became one of the trustees who began to plan for the relocation and rebuilding of the new church. My parents, especially Father, were so busy immediately after the earthquake that I hardly had time with them. A few weeks later, Mother suggested that Father ask the owner if he could rent early the summer cottage in Larkspur, since nobody was occupying it. The owner agreed, and we decided to move. That kept me out of the city weeks after the earthquake, so I was not in the city during the reconstruction period. So they were just like, let's get out.
Yeah.
And he wrote this in Maryland. So I'm guessing they went in that area. But
they went super far.
Yeah, but this was like 80 years later, so who knows where they ended up going. But yeah, it's just interesting to see like how one family reacted to it, especially like with a baby. Mm-hmm. So
I think the most curious thing I got, other than how just like emotional that is, that apartments did used to be called flats.
Yeah.
When did that change?
I don't know.
When did British slang just, like, become Americanized? That's what I'm wondering.
It is very interesting. Yeah, it was hard to read that because, like, there were typos and then, like, he spoke weirdly.
Yeah.
But he's also 90 years old, so.
Honestly. He probably had someone write it for him if anything.
But yeah, that was the San Francisco earthquake.
That's sad.
Yeah, it seems devastating and terrifying, especially like at that time when they didn't know a lot about earthquakes. So
well, yeah, and then at least technology, I think if we had something like that happen now, we wouldn't know what to do just because we just use technology for everything
right
anymore. Like back then, like it sucked and they struggled, no doubt, but just like they didn't have the technology that we have now.
Right.
Like nowadays you can't just take like your stove oven and just put it in the middle of the street.
I know.
Because everything is like electric
You
anymore.
can't just go move it out there, yeah.
No, they probably just have like a gas stove.
Yeah.
Or like a coal or something like that.
Right.
But that just blows my mind.
How quickly they had to adapt to, like, everything had to change.
You have to, and just if you were going to stay in the city, you would have to accept that.
Yeah.
And if you weren't, like, just where were you gonna go next? That's
right.
the crazy part.
I'm curious to see, like, how long it took to, like, reconstruct.
Years.
Right.
Probably
and then
years
there was
for
some
how
other
many.
earthquake.
Yeah. Because I'm guessing, because it probably took them a while to build whatever they had.
Yeah.
Everybody probably had to pitch in at that point.
So crazy.
But, and then the housing, I can't imagine, because I'm guessing the houses were built similar to as they are now, to be very, like, narrow homes.
Right.
I don't know.
They call it the Great Earthquake.
The Great Earthquake.
I was trying to see if there was something about reconstructing it, but...
I always like looking at the photographs from
oh
those because they look crazy. Yeah, like that. We're looking at a picture of one of the streets and there's just a ginormous crack.
And you can see a wagon falling into it.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
You know what's crazier? They didn't have cars then. They still had freaking wagons.
Yeah.
When you said wagon, I was just like,
I know.
Why the hell do they have a wagon? And then now I'm thinking, I'm like, it's because it's 1906.
I know. I kept thinking it was later than it was.
God, imagine being 90 years old in 1988 and seeing cars develop through your lifetime.
Ugh.
That blows my mind. I'm guessing he was in World War One.
Yeah. So it says that they, like, instantly started building houses that were more earthquake proof.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want to admit that, like, it was going to happen again, but it was.
How do you make earthquake-proof homes?
Well, they just use, like, structures with reinforced masonry.
Oh.
But then, once they finally, like, caught up to the rebuilding, the next big earthquake struck in 1989, like...
Literally a year after he wrote that.
Oh, yeah!
Oh, my God.
I didn't even think of that!
I wonder if he was alive.
I assume so, if he was 90.
But, I mean, that's still pretty old. Like, that's a long life.
He's probably like, come on, guys, really? It's like it's their fault.
I mean, at least he's on the other side of the country, though.
That was the 1989 one. There's a whole gap in the bridge.
Oh, my God.
Jesus. And those were known as, like, the two biggest earthquakes in San Francisco.
San Francisco, yeah.
So,
jeez.
that's insane.
That population was big, too, then.
Yeah. Whew.
See, this is why I don't want to live there.
I love California, but the earthquakes, I'm like...
I think it would be a great place to visit, but yeah, there's too much going on. Like, I can barely tolerate where we live now.
Yeah. Yep.
But
anyway.
That was a great story. That was very sad.
Mm-hmm.
Informative, very sciencey.
Very to the point.
Very to the point.
There's not a lot to the story except that it ruined a lot of things and it's very sciencey.
And
so.
it was 1906, so
yeah.
Like, recording history had gotten better, but I still think it was...
They were kind of like, oh no.
Well, and there was so much to take care of, especially all those fires. Oh my gosh. That probably took a minute. They probably had to get volunteers to put it out.
Right. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the earthquake. So...
We got our third host here on my lap.
Yeah, Ruby's just straight chilling.
Yeah. But thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
We do. It's been fun. We'll see you guys next week.
What did you learn today?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. What did I learn? I guess don't move to San Francisco. Because the next...
I mean, move with caution.
The next earthquake might be coming soon, though.
Yeah?
If it's every 20-ish years. I guess it's been longer than that.
But, like, the big one.
Yeah.
Big mama.
Right.
Big papa.
Every 70 years. So, like, I don't know when that would be.
I don't know.
2060?
Ooh.
Yeah, something like that. So don't live in San Francisco in 2060.
We're going to be...
That's my advice.
Oh, my God.
Look ahead, guys. Plan ahead. Put on your calendar. Don't live there. What'd you learn?
Apartments were called flats.
Jamie's stuck on that.
Why did we change that? I like that better.
I know, it's kind of cute.
It's kind of cute.
I need to go back to my flat now.
They didn't. Hey. Okay, Miss Sassy Pants, get out of here then.
I really need water. That's what I learned. No, I'm just kidding.
We'll get you some good water after this.
Not my grandma's water.
Not your grandma's water. My water's good.
So funny. All right.
Where can you find us?
I was waiting for that question. I was like, come on, Jenny, ask me a question. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook.
Of course.
There's like 2 Facebook groups because I accidentally made one wrong the first time. The first one was like an actual group.
Yeah.
So I guess you can join it if you want, but the second one is like a page that you like. And that's the one that we post on. Yeah. So you can go to both of them, but I did notice that I did that on accident. They're both Historia the Podcast, and that's the same as our Instagram name.
Yay.
Our Twitter is Historia the Pod 1, I think. And then our email is historiathepodcast@gmail.com. So if you have any,
Gmail.
yeah, you gotta love Gmail. If you have any like requests, comments, stories.
Ooh, if you got some cute little pets, share it.
Yes. We love to see the pets.
Yeah.
Maybe you've experienced an earthquake. What was it like? Tell us.
Yes, I want to know what it's like because James my boyfriend, he got to experience it. I've never got to experience one.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would want to, but I think it's just, I don't know, I think it would feel weird.
I just want to know what it feels like. Yeah. Yeah, like, I just want to experience, like, a level 2. Like, I don't need anything crazy.
Level 2? Like, I would prefer not to experience
level 1,
but
I guess.
But I'm interested to know, like, people's stories and how they handled the situation like that. Because I can't imagine, like, what your mind is going through because you don't know how long it's going to last or, like, what if something's going to fall on you.
Uh-huh.
But
it's insane.
That's just the behaviors.
But, yeah. So, catch us next week. Yes. We're coming at you
with a very interesting topic. This one, the one I'm sharing, is going to be pretty sad as well.
Should we tell them it's at least in the United States?
Yes, it is, and it's currently located where we are currently at.
Yes.
Colorado.
Yep.
So.
That's all we're telling you. Stay tuned.
For next week. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.